Elias woke to the sensation of being jostled by a force that didn't exist, or at least didn't obey any laws of physics he had ever studied. One moment, he had been hurtling through the starship corridor like a rag doll, sparks ricocheting off the walls in dazzling, terrifying arcs, and the next, he was lying on a surface that felt almost sentient. Not soft exactly, but alive in a way that suggested it knew he had survived. He blinked, and the dim light of the shelter shimmered around him in veins of pale green, like some overgrown cathedral made entirely of phosphorescent moss. "Well," he muttered, wincing as a particularly tender bruise on his shoulder protested, "this is not what I signed up for on Galactic Star Tour." A voice hummed from the walls, low, melodic, almost amused. "You are awake," it said. Elias squinted, looking for the speaker. There was no one, and yet the words had shape like they had mass, pressing gently against his ears. "Yes, I am," he said, his voice hoarse. "And I'm thinking that someone really should redesign your hazard notification system. I nearly became space confetti." There was a soft ripple of sound that almost sounded like a chuckle. He felt ridiculous, lying there trying to joke with what could have been the voice of the entire shelter. Or maybe it was a sarcastic AI. Those things were always sarcastic, weren't they? Movement caught his eye and he froze. A figure emerged from the glow, tall and elegant, walking with the fluid grace of something that had never been bound by gravity in the human sense. She looked almost human, but the long ears that curved back from her head made her seem like a woodland creature from some psychedelic dream. The tips twitched, attuned to the faintest vibration. Her eyes, no, not eyes really, but windows into something that shimmered like liquid topaz, watched him closely. He swallowed, noticing that her presence carried warmth, an almost physical hum that seemed to seep into his bones. "Hello," he croaked. "I think I'm supposed to panic, but I'm not sure if that's appropriate." Her lips curved in what could have been amusement or curiosity. "You will live," she said, and for a moment it sounded like she might have added, "Try not to embarrass yourself while doing it." Elias appreciated her tone. It was strangely comforting to be judged by an alien being with impeccable grammar and zero patience for human melodrama. Living, huh? That's a relief. The other option was becoming a cautionary tale for starship manuals. He winced again as he shifted slightly. The warmth radiating from her made his blood thrum in ways he didn't fully understand. The alien gestured toward the wounds that still marked him from the explosion. "Your species has fragile vessels. You require direct energy transfer to survive. Your heart falters." "I must," she paused, a faint amusement flickering across her features, "ensure you are not entirely dead." Elias coughed, trying to hide the laugh that threatened to escape. "Direct energy transfer. Right. That sounds perfectly normal. Is there an application form, or do you just pick your patients off the street?" The corners of her mouth twitched upward. "No forms, no paperwork. You are lucky, or unfortunate. Perspective matters." He tried to sit up and failed. His muscles screamed in protest, and she didn't stop him, just watched with those curious topaz windows, tilting her head slightly. "Okay," he muttered, "I'll take your word for it. But if we're going to do energy transfer, can we at least negotiate a blanket? Or maybe some gloves? I'm modest, somewhat civilized, and slightly allergic to embarrassment." The alien gave a sound, half laugh, half vibration, like someone had pressed the wrong button on a music box. "Embarrassment is irrelevant," she said softly, though the corners of her mouth twitched in ways that suggested she enjoyed his awkwardness. "Your survival is primary." The shelter hummed around them, alive with its own rhythm. Elias tried to focus, tried to think scientifically, but his mind kept wandering. The walls pulsed, almost in sync with his heartbeat, and the alien stepped closer, her presence warming him like sunlight after a long winter. "So, what's your name, awkward human?" she asked. "Elias," he said, trying to sound brave. "Elias Hargrove, space traveler, slightly bruised, professional at awkward situations." He paused. "You." "I am Cyrelia," she said, her voice lilting like a song carried on a strange wind. She extended a hand, long fingers tipped with subtle ridges. When he hesitated, she smiled faintly. "Do not fear. I do not bite, not lethally at least." He laughed despite himself, a ragged, relieved sound. "Noted. I'll keep that in mind for future reference." Hours passed in strange rhythms. He slept fitfully, waking to find her still near, watching him, sometimes leaning over with cautious energy transfers. At one point, he woke to discover her perched atop him, warmth radiating from her body, eyes watching his reaction with an almost feline curiosity. Morning," he said, attempting nonchalance. "You required energy," she said simply, as if that explained everything. Elia's flustered, scrambled back a little. "Energy transfer, got it. Noted. Definitely not used to being used as a human charging pad." She made a sound that could have been laughter, though not unpleasant, and Elias couldn't help but grin. Somehow, even in a ruined world with starship wreckage glittering like fallen stars outside the shelter, there was room for humor. "Do you do this to all your patients?" he asked cautiously, still lying there, half panicked, half fascinated. "No," she said, "only to those who survive unintentionally." Her ears twitched. "And those who make my dreams interesting." Elias froze. "Your dreams?" Her eyes softened. "You will understand eventually." For the first time since the explosion, he felt like survival wasn't just about keeping his heart beating or his body intact. Somewhere in the glow of the alien shelter, with its strange, pulsing walls, and the woman with the long ears who seemed capable of reading him without words, Elias realized that surviving might be the easiest part of all. The shelter hummed. The light danced over the walls, and somewhere in the quiet chaos, a small human laugh echoed, half relief, half disbelief, fully alive. Elias woke again to the soft hum of the shelter, its walls pulsing faintly in rhythm with his own heartbeat, or maybe it was just his imagination. He blinked at the dim glow, expecting the alien woman, Sirlia, to be perched nearby as usual, but she was. A sigh of relief escaped him, though he quickly muffled it when he realized how absurd it was to be relieved by her absence. She returned moments later, carrying what looked like a floating sphere of liquid light, and he had to admit, despite the lingering soreness in his ribs, it was strangely beautiful. "You brought breakfast?" he asked, attempting to sound casual, though his voice betrayed him with a rasp. "I brought energy," she said, placing the glowing orb gently beside him. "It is consumable and nutritious." He squinted at it. "Right, nutritional light. Got it, any chance it comes in pancakes?" She tilted her head, her long ears twitching in what he decided was amusement. "Your species' food customs are curious." He laughed despite himself. "Curious. That's a diplomatic way of saying bizarre, I think." He leaned forward and tentatively touched the orb. Warmth seeped through his fingers, spreading into his chest and wrapping his bruised muscles in a comforting embrace. The sensation was both soothing and ticklish. "Okay, this isn't bad. Weird, but not bad." Sirlia crouched beside him, her presence radiating a quiet authority that somehow made him feel simultaneously protected and ridiculously human. "Your species recovers slowly," she said, almost conversationally, "but your mind adapts quickly, perhaps too quickly for your own good." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Too quickly? Is that your polite way of saying I panic a lot?" She made a soft sound, vibrating in a way that made him shiver. "Panic is expected. The recovery of your mind is intriguing and amusing." They sat in a strange rhythm for hours, him eating the luminescent energy, her watching him, her long ears twitching every so often as though catching the subtle hums of the shelter. At some point, he drifted off into another fitful sleep, one that seemed to stretch across time and space. He awoke in a different place, or perhaps a different layer of the same place. Stars glimmered with unfamiliar constellations, oceans shimmered in colors that had no names, and mountains floated, untethered like great islands in the void. And there she was, standing beside him in the dreamscape, her hair rippling as if underwater, ears alert to the faintest currents. "You are awake," she said, though her voice carried no vibration. This was the language of the dream. "Do you understand now?" Elias tried to speak, but words felt fragile, slipping through the dream like smoke. "Understand what?" He managed finally. "That survival here is more than flesh," she said. "You must share the energy, not just mine to you, but yours to me, and in sharing we connect." He blinked. Connect like friendship or like life partners. He laughed at the absurdity of the thought in the midst of floating mountains and neon oceans. She tilted her head, her eyes glittering with humor. "Perhaps both. Perhaps neither. Your understanding is limited by your species' experience." He grinned despite the strangeness of it. "Limited, huh? That's diplomatic again. I'm beginning to think your species has a PhD in understatement." She made a soft, musical vibration that seemed equivalent to a chuckle. "Perhaps. Or perhaps your species overuses humor to survive." Elias woke with a start, finding himself once more in the physical shelter. Scirelia was there, watching him, her long ears twitching as if she had just sensed the remnants of the dream. "You see," she said, "you dream with me. Even when awake, your mind touches the shelter's memory and mine touches yours." He raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot of touching for a first day of survival." She hummed in amusement and he laughed despite himself. "Okay, fine, point taken. But I think my human etiquette might need a manual for this whole dream-sharing with alien woman thing." Scirelia crouched beside him again, reaching out to brush his arm with her fingers, warmth spreading in a pulse that left him oddly breathless. "Etiquette is secondary," she said softly. "Survival, connection, understanding, that is primary. Everything else comes later." Elias swallowed hard, trying to process the mixture of biology and emotion she represented. "Later," he said, "sounds like a really flexible timeline which suits me. Just don't surprise me again with any energy transfer on top of the bed things, okay?" A soft vibration echoed from her, almost like a laugh. "Your species is amusing," she said, "and resilient. You will adapt." He laughed, the sound awkward and full of disbelief. "Resilient, huh? That's diplomatic again. I'm sensing a theme here. Aliens really love understatement." She made another soft vibration, her eyes gleaming with amusement. Hours passed as he explored the shelter cautiously. Every corner seemed to hum with latent energy, walls pulsing with the faint impression of previous lives. Elias found devices that responded to thought, materials that could reshape themselves when touched, and corridors that seemed to fold in on themselves with a faint, teasing logic. Humor again intruded. Great, a self-rearranging building, because surviving one exploding starship wasn't complicated enough. Scirelia appeared beside him, as always, calm and graceful. "The shelter tests, observes, and sustains. You will learn its rhythm." Elias nodded, though a grin tugged at his lips. "Learning a rhythm from a building, that's a first for me. I hope there's a dance involved, because otherwise I might get lost, or worse, offended." She made that musical vibration again, and for the first time, Elias realized she was laughing outright, just as he was. And in that shared, absurd moment, the sharp edges of the past day's trauma softened slightly. They were survivors, yes, but something else was weaving between them, delicate and improbable as starlight. And somewhere in the shelter's quiet pulse, the universe seemed to smile, as if aware that even in the aftermath of destruction, laughter and connection could bloom in the most unexpected places. Elias woke again to a soft vibration running through the shelter, a rhythm that was neither sound nor light, but something that pressed against his bones like a heartbeat borrowed from the universe itself. He tried to sit up, only to find Scirelia already there, crouched beside him with the tip of one ear flicking in amusement. "Good morning," she said, voice calm, almost teasing. "You sleep unusually." "Unusually," Elias echoed, rubbing the back of his neck. "That's the nicest way to say I snore, isn't it?" She made a low, melodic vibration that he took for laughter. "Perhaps, or perhaps your sleep interacts strangely with the shelter. It is entertaining." "Entertaining," he groaned, Great, I'm a source of amusement and a human-shaped pincushion. Both are accurate, she said, brushing a hand across the residual warmth of his body. But necessary. He stared at her perplexed, as warmth spread from the point of contact. His muscles seemed to hum, wounds knitting faster than humanly possible. Necessary, okay. I get the survival angle, but you're a little too enthusiastic about my suffering, he muttered, attempting a joke even though the heat creeping through him made his face flush. She tilted her head, long ears twitching like delicate sensors. Your body is interesting. The way it responds to energy is unique and amusing in small ways. Elias blinked, realizing that amusement had a new context here. Small ways. He let out a laugh that surprised him. It was unguarded raw. I'm going to need a manual for your species. How to not embarrass yourself around your alien caretaker or something. Manuals are rarely accurate, she replied, her eyes sparkling. Experience teaches better. You will. Elias woke to a soft hum that thrummed through the shelter, a vibration that seemed to echo not only in the walls but in his bones. The air was warm, almost sweet with energy, and the first thing he noticed was Cyrelia, standing over him with her long ears flicking lazily, a faint smile playing at her lips. You slept again, she said, voice calm but with a hint of amusement. Yes, Elias replied, rubbing his eyes, and I dreamt of that floating mountain again. Honestly, at this point, I'm considering sending it a formal complaint. Her eyes sparkled with quiet laughter. The mountains are indifferent to your complaints, but your adaptability is impressive. He grinned despite the soreness in his muscles. Adaptability. I'd call it stubbornness mixed with a small amount of panic, but thanks for the compliment, I think. She crouched beside him, warmth radiating from her. Your species' humor is persistent. It is comforting, even when illogical. Comforting. Glad my jokes are doing something besides embarrassing me in front of the shelter, he muttered, stretching. Although, between you and me, I think the shelter finds me equally entertaining and ridiculous. Her fingers brushed lightly across his arm, sending a pulse of warmth that made him startle. Perhaps, she said softly, perhaps both are true. As he sat up, the shelter seemed to respond to him in subtle ways, the walls pulsing with gentle light, panels shifting slightly as if giving him room. He looked at Cyrelia. So, the building is alive, the alien woman heals me with hugs, and my dreams involve impossible mountains. This is all normal, right? Normal is relative, she replied, a faint hum of amusement in her voice. Here, survival is primary. Connection and understanding follow. Elias sighed dramatically. Connection and understanding, got it. How do you normally explain this to humans? Do you just hand out pamphlets or send a welcome kit? Her ears twitched and she gave a musical vibration. No pamphlets. You humans rarely read them. Experience is better. They moved through the shelter together, Elias cautiously exploring new sections that seemed to shift under his gaze. Each corridor tested him in subtle ways, a floor that bent slightly as if it could feel his weight, walls that responded to the touch of his fingers. He tried to make a joke about it. Great, now the building has opinions about my walking style. Should I bow to the floor or? You will learn to move with it, she said simply, walking beside him, her presence steady and grounding. It is challenging but necessary. He chuckled despite himself. Challenging, indeed. Between the building and you, I'm starting to feel like a professional test subject for cosmic weirdness. She hummed softly, an almost laugh in vibration form. Your species' resilience is amusing and necessary. Hours passed in the strange rhythm of the shelter, punctuated by bursts of conversation and humor. Elias discovered more about Cyrelia's energy transfer, how her touch could not only heal but also connect him to her mind. Elias woke to a soft hum that thrummed through the shelter, a vibration that seemed to echo not only in the walls but in his bones. The air was warm, almost sweet with energy, and the first thing he noticed was Cyrelia, standing over him with her long ears flicking lazily, a faint smile playing at her lips. You slept again, she said, voice calm but with a hint of amusement. Yes, Elias replied, rubbing his eyes, and I dreamt of that floating mountain again. Honestly, at this point, I'm considering sending it a formal complaint. Her eyes sparkled with quiet laughter. The mountains are indifferent to your complaints, but your adaptability is impressive. He grinned despite the soreness in his muscles. Adaptability. I'd call it stubbornness mixed with a small amount of panic. But thanks for the compliment, I think. She crouched beside him, warmth radiating from her. Your species' humor is persistent. It is comforting, even when illogical. Comforting. Glad my jokes are doing something besides embarrassing me in front of the shelter, he muttered, stretching. Although, between you and me, I think the shelter finds me equally entertaining and ridiculous. Her fingers brushed lightly across his arm, sending a pulse of warmth that made him startle. Perhaps, she said softly, perhaps both are true. As he sat up, the shelter seemed to respond to him in subtle ways, the walls pulsing with gentle light, panels shifting slightly as if giving him room. He looked at Scirelia. So the building is alive, the alien woman heals me with hugs, and my dreams involve impossible mountains. This is all normal, right? Normal is relative, she replied, a faint hum of amusement in her voice. Here survival is primary, connection and understanding follow. Elias sighed dramatically. Connection and understanding, got it. How do you normally explain this to humans? Do you just hand out pamphlets or send a welcome kit? Her ears twitched and she gave a musical vibration. No pamphlets, you humans rarely read them. Experience is better. They moved through the shelter together, Elias cautiously exploring new sections that seemed to shift under his gaze. Each corridor tested him in subtle ways, a floor that bent slightly as if it could feel his weight, walls that responded to the touch of his fingers. He tried to make a joke about it. Great, now the building has opinions about my walking style. Should I bow to the floor or? You will learn to move with it, she said simply, walking beside him, her presence steady and grounding. It is challenging but necessary. He chuckled despite himself. Challenging, indeed. Between the building and you, I'm starting to feel like a professional test subject for cosmic weirdness. She hummed softly, an almost laugh in vibration form. Your species' resilience is amusing and necessary. Hours passed in the strange rhythm of the shelter, punctuated by bursts of conversation and humor. Elias discovered more about Sirelia's energy transfer, how her touch could not only heal but also connect him to her mind, a link that pulsed with subtle emotion. He began to feel the warmth as something more than survival, an almost electric intimacy that made his heart thrum. At one point, he tripped over a shifting corridor and caught himself on a panel. Ah, fantastic. The shelter tries to trip me now. Is this part of the training program? Sirelia's ears flicked, and she gave a soft, musical vibration. You must be aware, adaptation is not always graceful. Your humor eases the tension, which is helpful. He groaned. Helpful, sure, if laughing while nearly face-planting counts. Later they rested, and Elias drifted into another shared dream. This one was different. He stood on the edge of a vast ocean, the water glowing faintly like liquid light. Sirelia appeared beside him, graceful and calm, ears flicking as she scanned the horizon. You feel it again, she said. The flow of energy between us. Between the shelter. You must learn to move with it, not against it. I'm trying, he called, though his laughter echoed strangely over the glowing waves. I feel like I'm in some alien dance class, and I missed the first semester. She gave a soft, musical vibration that sounded like amusement. You are learning faster than expected. Persistence, humor, adaptability, all contribute. He grinned despite the surrealness of the scene. Learning faster than expected. That sounds like praise. Can I get a gold star or maybe a cosmic sticker? Her gaze softened, topaz eyes reflecting the glowing ocean. No stickers, but the shelter approves, and I approve. He blinked, not entirely sure he had heard her correctly. Approve. For surviving your alien energy transfer and ridiculous dream worlds. Yes, she said simply. For surviving and for engaging, you are unusual. Elias laughed a little nervously. Unusual. That's diplomatic for I'm the weirdest human you've ever met, right? Her ears twitched in amusement. Perhaps, or perhaps you are exactly what is needed. When he awoke in the shelter again, the warmth of her presence was comforting, grounding him after the dream's intensity. So, he said, trying to mask the flutter of nerves, you're teaching me survival, humor, adaptation, and now maybe emotional resilience. Is that on the syllabus too? Her eyes glimmered and she made a soft vibration, almost like a laugh. All are necessary, for survival, for connection, for life. Elias sighed dramatically, stretching, though he could feel the heat lingering in his muscles. Life, huh? I think I signed up for surviving starships, not life lessons delivered via alien woman and pulsating buildings. But fine, I'll take it, as long as the life lessons come with humor at least. She made a soft, melodic vibration. Humor is beneficial and perhaps unavoidable with you. Elias chuckled, leaning back. Unavoidable, huh? Well, I guess I'll take that as a compliment. The shelter hummed around them, walls pulsing faintly, corridors shifting subtly. And somewhere between the alien warmth, the glowing panels, and the shared laughter, Elias realized that survival was no longer just about keeping his body intact. It was about understanding the rhythm of a world unlike any he had known, and the strange, magnetic presence of